Okay.
We have it.
Okay, now, what has been your inspiration or role models that have guided you in if any?
I have had different role models in my life for different things. I had my grandfather as a role model for the demands of life, for strength, for coping, for being there, always responsible, never complaining, and assuming that I have to do all the work. And that was very much my grandfather's image. From my grandmother, I have this fascination for the world of the unknown, for magic, for everything that has to do with the mind and the heart and dreams, legends. From my mother, I have the storytelling. From my mother-in-law, unconditional love. How to really commit yourself to love no matter what. She was that way. She taught me that. I think that I was the most unlikely daughter-in-law for her. Exactly the person she would have not liked in her family. But because her son loved me, she loved me too. And she loved my children. And that's been very important for me. My literary role models have been all the great names of the boom of Latin American literature. Pablo Neruda, Borges, of course, José Donoso, García Márquez, Mario Vargas Llosa, Carlos Fuentes, Octavio Paz, Juan Rulfo, all of them have been, and many, many more that I forget right now, all of them males. There have been very few names of women in the boom of Latin American literature, which is very unfair because women have been writing in Latin America always, since Sor Juana Inés de la Cruz. But their work has been somehow ignored or denied enough publicity or distribution, not always studied as it should or reviewed as it should. We have a great Nobel Prize laureate in Chile who is a woman, Gabriela Mistral, and her poetry was very important in my youth. But in general, it has been male names.
Your character.
Rebecca.
Okay. You're described as a feminist, yet you were raised in a very traditional, chauvinistic atmosphere. How did you change about, or how did you started one way? How do you end up being nominated Feminist of Marin County or Feminist of the Year?
Although I come from a very traditional and very patriarchal environment, where my grandfather was second to God only, I think I became a feminist when I was 5 years old, seeing my mother as a victim in an all-male household, in which my mother had absolutely no authority, no saying, no word, nothing. I did not want to be like my mother, although I love her very much. I wanted to be like my grandfather. I wanted to have power, independence, freedom. At that time, in Chile, I had never heard the word feminist. It didn't exist. The word had not been invented yet. At least we had never heard it there. And I acted in a very rebellious way all my youth. By the time I was in my 20s, I started reading works by feminist authors from Europe and the United States. I remember that a book that was extremely important for me because it gave me an articulate language to express my anger and to work for a feminist cause was Germaine Greer's The Female Eunuch. It really showed me that many other women had the same feelings I was having, that I was not a weirdo, that this was happening. This was happening all over in the world, and I had to bring this to Chile and to my life and to my writing as a journalist. And I got involved in a feminist magazine. which also was very important for me because feminism has determined my personality.
What made you come to California, here where we are now?
I came to California because I fell in love. I should say I fell in lust at first sight, and I came following a man, and it has been wonderful. 9 years we've been together, and I think that we are still in lust and in love, which is amazing at my age.
Tell me about Will.
Willie's an attorney. He's a kind man with a kind heart, and maybe you would not be able to discover that at first sight because he's also a street fighter, a person who uses all the space in the room, very, very strong, a very strong personality. But he has this quiet, compassive, gentle soul that I relate to. He's a great companion and a good cook, which is great because I don't like to cook. I mean, I do like it, but not every day.
Tell me about your son Nicholas and Paula.
I have 2 children, Paula and Nicholas. I say I have because although Paula is dead, I still have her. Paula was the genius in the family, very brilliant intellectually, and also very extroverted. So she was very visible in the family, a great presence. Nicholas, we have discovered later, is more intelligent than Paula is, but he's very quiet and very introverted. So you have to really get into Nicholas to get out of him all his potential. Nicholas is a great father, a great friend, a great son. He's a person who always responds with great nobility. I would say that he's a very noble character, and that is his main trait, this sort of nobility of the spirit. I have a very good relationship with both. My relationship with Paula now is more complicated because I can't do all the things that we did before that were so much fun, like shopping in thrift shops and traveling and teaching together and talking on the phone and gossiping. All that's over. So now we have a more spiritual connection. And with Nicholas, I call him every single day of my life. Even if I'm in India, I call him every day. And I ask him if he loves me, and I tell him that I love him because I don't want him to forget that he is loved unconditionally.
Tell me about in Paula. You reveal your history, and in much intimate detail, and many private, or at least some topics which are very private and sacred in some sense. How did you feel about, in the end, wanting to publish the memoirs?
When I wrote Paula, I wasn't aware that I was writing a book. The book started as notes that I was taking in the hospital in Madrid when Paula was sick. These notes were for her as a sort of reminder of what had happened, who she was, who were all these people around her bed. Paula was in a deep coma, and I thought that I was convinced that she was going to come out of the coma. And I thought when she comes out of the coma, she will want to know many things that she may have forgotten. And my job is to remind her. That's how I started writing that book. A year later, when she died, and on January 8th, I should have started another book. I realized that there was nothing that I could write except rewrite what I had already written. And I wrote for a year the notes I had taken, the letters I had written to Paula and to my mother, and many other things that I had accumulated during that year. When it was done, I thought it was a sort of memoir for my grandchildren and for my son, who may also have the condition that killed Paula. But after my mother read it, and my son and my daughter-in-law and everybody in the family, we decided that it could be published. And my mother said, well, you have to transform this into fiction and change all the names because we don't want to be exposed. And I tried. For a week, I tried to change names, to cut, edit, change, cover the family secrets. And every time I tried to do that, I felt that I was betraying the spirit of the book. I was betraying Paula, and it didn't make any sense to publish it if it was not the true and uncut story. So I talked to my agent, and she was scared. She said, I don't know if you should publish this. But after it was published, I have spent nearly 3 years answering the mail. The feedback has been incredible. I realized that the book opened a space for many people to share their own losses and their own hopes and joys. And I spend every day a couple of hours just answering mail. So I'm glad I published it. And instead of feeling vulnerable because of this exposure, I feel very strong because I don't have anything to hide.
You have written that evil or villainy is sometimes the most interesting and kind of drawing concept or theme in a story. However, a lot of evil or villain is invisible in your stories. How so?
I think of writing as a Dutch painting, a Fleming painting, in which the shadow is often more important than the light. In order to see that little light that makes the painting, you need all that shadow. And this is what the writing is about. It's about the wonderful element that makes the story so dear to your heart. Love, solidarity, generosity, compassion, humor, which is so important. But in order to highlight all that, you need all this shadow behind that brings out this light. And this is how I see my life and how I see my writing. In my life, there is a lot of pain and stress and many losses. But all that is necessary for me to enjoy life so wonderfully as I do. I enjoy everything I do and everything that happens in my life. The terrible loss and the terrible pain of losing my daughter makes me aware today of the brilliant possibility of the spirit and the spiritual connection, and how you can have in your lifetime this thing that belongs to the beyond, to the other world. This can be part of your life today. It was necessary for me to go through that pain and that loss in order to be aware of this. I would have never needed to be aware of it before. I'm aware of the beauty of my country and my background and my traditions because I lost everything. And I had to leave my country one day and just be away for many, many years. If I had stayed in Chile and if I had never lost Chile, I would not love it so much maybe because I would take it for granted. And it's the same with everything. I enjoy my love, my romantic love with my husband, because I know what it is not to have it, and to discover this very late. So I treasure it and I take care of it.
Tell me about some of the awards or accomplishments that you are most proud of.
I have received many honorary degrees, awards, distinction of many kinds, and it makes me very proud and I'm very grateful. But to tell you the truth, what really makes me proud is every letter that I open in the mail that comes from a reader from some faraway place. The readers are what justifies my writing, not their words, although I'm proud of them.
Are there any aspirations that you still feel that you have to achieve, or do you think you have made your...
I am 53 years old now, and I have done everything I came to the world to do. I came to this world to have a couple of children and accompany them in the first part of their lives. I came to hold them when they were born and hold Paula in her death, to pamper my grandchildren and love a few men and take care of my mother, and write a few books. And I have done everything I came to do. The rest is bonus. I don't feel that I have anything important. My life is not about goals. It's about process. It's not about achieving anything. It's about everyday life, walking. Life for me is a journey, and every step is what is important, not anything that I have to achieve. When I was younger, achieving was important, the goals, the rewards, and I thought if I get there, then everything will be different. If I obtain this, then everything will change. It doesn't happen that way. The only thing that changes is the soul, me as a person. And in the process of changing, and that happens on a daily basis, I find the joy of life.
I think, what advice would you give to aspiring writers?
I often get this question of what message or advice would I offer to an aspiring writer. I would say many things that I have learned. However, it's hard to give a message because every case is different. Writing for me is like training to be an athlete. You have to do it every day. And all the training is necessary to compete one day as an athlete. The training is not lost. All the pages that you throw in the garbage, all that writing that is lost is necessary for the one sentence that will be published. So be patient. Don't think that everything you write is publishable, because it's not. Most things have to be thrown away and forget about them. Don't try to recycle them, because it doesn't work that way. Writing is work. It's inspiration and work, but mainly work. I try to write from a very honest place, from a very candid place in my heart. I may make up a story, but I don't make up the feelings. The feelings have to be with me, and I have to be totally honest with my feelings. I can't write about things I don't believe in. I correct and overcorrect extensively. I never finish a book. I just give up, because you can always improve it. Once the book is published, you can never correct anything else. It's out there. And I'm so ashamed, so embarrassed by things that I have published. I wish I had never published them. So now I'm so careful with every sentence. I think that the best advice is be cautious. Don't go out there and just publish anything. Be cautious. Too many things are published. You have to publish something that is special.
What is your impression of a critic or a reviewer?
Usually, reviewers are people who can't write and wish they could. They are much harder on the writer and the writing than the readers are. Often, a bad review does not kill a book. It does kill a movie, but not a book. Because people who read usually don't read the reviews. They buy the books because the bookseller told them, or the librarian, or a friend. So it's word to mouth more than the reviews. But I have learned from the reviewers many things, and I read some of the important reviews carefully, because I may learn, and I do learn, something about my own writing. I get a lot of papers written by students, and I read them, because students find in the writing things that I didn't even know that I had written. And it's very interesting for me, because then when I write, I'm aware that there are other levels of the writing and the reading that I don't even suspect. And I try to be very respectful of that.
En español.
Bueno,
Okay.
podemos hacer
Sí,
una
cómo
pausa.
no, sí, una pausa.
We got a little